Do you love TV shows? We do too. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and we're the hosts of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're searching for a new favorite series or ready to revisit an old classic, we're here to guide you through an infinite world of TV shows.
Each episode, we watch and discuss the pilot for shows while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling and not sure what to watch next, tune in and let us do the searching for you.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello everyone, welcome back to our pod.
Hi, how's it going, boo?
It's going pretty good. Day off. Been watching a lot of true crime. Watching a lot of true crime lately.
You have been watching a lot.
Yeah, I get into those modes sometimes.
Yeah, just kind of like...
sometimes I just get, believe it or not, this is even I barely believe myself when I say this, but sometimes I get tired of YouTube, and sometimes I get tired of watching the same videos over and over again every now and then, and sometimes I'm like, all right, let's change it up, let's watch other stuff, and it doesn't take long for me to get hooked on a true crime, especially when it's like a 90-minute movie or something like that. It's a lot easier. Or it's
something we've heard about in the news. Yeah.
Like I watched the documentary about the bling ring, and I watched the bully one, the murder of Bobby Kent. We just finished watching that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a crazy one. That was insane.
That one was insane in the sense of just how it turned really fast among the friends. Mm-hmm. I mean, which is a little ironic about what we're getting ready to talk about.
That's a friendship gone sour. This is a little bit more on the positive side. So we are continuing. Well, actually, we are finishing in a month, and what a perfect way to do it. I completely forgot I was just going to open the episode up with, and just like that, it's the end of Anna month.
It's just like that. It's the end of Anna month. Yeah. Almost finished my month.
Yeah. So did you have a good birthday month?
I did. I just wrapped up. Summer, Alicia, and I went to Biloxi for a little mini gals weekend. Mm-hmm. And, I think we always have these plans of grandeur of like, going to the pool and going out to eat every night, or, just doing all kinds of stuff. And we ended up doing what I think all three of us really, really needed. And that was absolutely nothing.
Do absolutely nothing.
We Summer got up on Saturday, went and got us like some, tasty pastries. I treated all of us to Starbucks. Mm-hmm. And then we just stayed in the room all day.
Yeah.
We kind of noshed on snacks that we brought, and then we decided to venture out for dinner. That wasn't too successful. We just went to a place a friend recommended. We were all kind of like, wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst,
right.
But doubt we ever go back.
Yeah.
I don't really have any interest of even taking you there if we go on a trip. And then we rode around Biloxi because there were quite a few festivals.
There's always seems to be something going on in Biloxi.
There was a crawfish festival. Yeah. There was a cannabis festival.
Hell yeah, brother.
Cowboy Mouth was playing at the Coliseum.
That couldn't be more of a southern random concert other than Better Than Ezra.
Yeah, there was just a lot going on in Biloxi, but that could have also have been a big part of us going and doing a bunch of things, and we just chose not to.
Yeah.
And it was really, really, really what I needed. I think a lot of times, especially when you're at work, especially on Sundays, I get this mad desire to do everything in the house.
Yeah.
And I think you're the same way when I'm traveling for work. And this really... I didn't bring my computer with me. I didn't do any of those things. No looking at work stuff. Nothing. I couldn't clean anything. So it was good. It was a good little 48-hour day away.
It's nice to go, and we do it every now and then. We'll go to stay at a hotel. We'll go to New Orleans every now and then, or Biloxi now and then, and stay a night or two. And for me, I mean, and people are like, what'd you do? I'll be like, I laid in the hotel room and watched hotel TV and just did nothing, because I don't get to do that very often.
Yeah.
Especially, I have my days off, but like a day kind of like today where I'm just kind of sitting I've been in my PJs all day. I haven't done one of these in a minute. We always have something going on. We always have something to do. But yeah, it's been nice not doing anything today.
Yeah, and I think we need that, and we forget that. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we are doing And Just Like That, just in case you don't know what that is. And Just Like That is the it serves as, it's both a sequel and a revival because it is a continuation of the same story, just with a different title. I don't fully know how I feel about the title, them having different titles.
Well, it stems from the show because she would always say...
Yeah, I know that, but
okay.
I know that. I know that part, but I mean, it was just interesting that, it's the same show, it's just with a different title, and just minus Kim Cattrall.
I think they didn't want it to be, because when it first came out, they weren't saying it was a reboot.
Yeah.
I know that Kristen Davis just kept saying it's a continuation of the story. They didn't want it to be thought of as the Fuller House or the 90210. Those were all reboots. Yeah. But they didn't want it to be thought of that way.
Fuller House is a continuation.
For sure.
Yeah, Fuller House, but 90210, they did, Melrose Place. There was a
Dallas,
period of time in the 2010s where they officially ran out of ideas, and they were just taking from, it was like there was just this era of every movie was like a dystopian future movie that revolved around a teen, and then there was Divergent, Maze Runner, all those, and then there was also every show was getting a reboot, every single drama was getting a reboot, and then revivals started happening, like the Gilmore Girls one and some others. And so when they did And Just Like That, it made sense because they had done 2 movies. They had talked about doing a third one, but that didn't end up happening. So it only made sense because they kept doing continuations for Sex and the City. The story never quite ended, although this is kind of 10 years after the second movie.
Yeah.
It was just really interesting that it was this was the one that felt like they weren't pushing it. It didn't feel kind of like how you felt about the Gilmore Girls one, where it kind of just felt like it was just more or less just kind of pointless.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you said. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't want
to say pointless. It didn't add anything to the story.
Whereas with Sex and the City, the movies kind of continuously evolved the characters. And with this And Just Like That, it is more about being kind of in a different phase in your life. Sex and the City celebrated, they were in their, 20s and in their 30s, and they were single, and now it's we're older, we
50s.
Still have problems, they're just different now.
Oh, yeah.
And,
And we evolve as we get older over time. Yeah.
All right, so let's just go ahead and get into it, and we're going to talk about some stuff, but first, Anna's going to do what she always does, give us some episode and series information.
All right, And Just Like That, hello, it's me. And Just Like That is an American comedy drama series that premiered on Max on December 9th, 2021. The show currently has 2 seasons and 21 episodes. Season 3 premieres on May 29th, 2025, which is just about 5 weeks from today, and is set to have 12 episodes. The series serves as both a sequel and a revival to the hit show Sex and the City. And Just Like That was created by Darren Star, the original creator of Sex and the City, and the pilot was written and directed by Michael Patrick King, who serves as the writer, director, and executive producer for both shows, but also was the writer and director of the Sex and the City movies. And Just Like That picks up over a little over a decade after the events of the second film. It revolves around Carrie and her friends, old and new, as they navigate a new era in their lives, ranging from being single and dating in your 50s, parenting teenagers, discovering new aspects of your sexuality, and most importantly, maintaining and gaining new friendships. The main cast of season 1 includes Sarah Jessica Parker as Carrie Bradshaw, Cynthia Nixon as Miranda Hobbs, Kristen Davis as Charlotte York Goldenblatt, Mario Cantone as Anthony Marantino, David Eigenberg as Steve Brady, Willie Garson, rest in peace, as Stanford Blatch, Evan Handler as Harry Goldenblatt, Chris Noth as Mr. Big, John James Preston. New characters include Sarah Ramirez as Che Diaz, Carrie's podcast co-host and aspiring stand-up comedian. Sarita Chuduri as Seema Patel, Carrie's real estate broker and close friend. And we are introduced to Nicole Ari Parker as Lisa Todd Wexley, a well-known documentarian and one of Charlotte's acquaintances through the school of her daughter's schools. Karen Pittman as Dr. Nia Wallace, Miranda's law school professor. Chris Jackson as Herbert Wexley, Lisa's husband, who works as a hedge fund banker. Kathy Eng as Lily Goldenblatt. Alexa Swinton as Rock Goldenblatt. Niall Cunningham as Brady Hobbs. When the series was originally announced, it was quickly confirmed that Kim Cattrall would not be returning to play Samantha Jones. Cattrall has said many times that she wasn't interested in reprising the role after the second film. Could be for many different reasons, but most likely one that was tossed around was that she was at odds with her fellow co-stars, mostly over money, but she also said she felt that Samantha Jones, that the character had kind of been finished.
Yeah.
That was kind of her official
I never
stance
saw
on
the
it.
I never saw the movies, so I don't know how her character was wrapped up.
It really wasn't, but she was saying like there wasn't any more development that, she wanted to partake in. The series was originally billed as a one-off miniseries, but due to the success of the first season, they decided to continue the story with 2 more seasons. The full series is currently available on Max.
I kind of forgotten that it was supposed to be like a one season. When I read that, I was like, oh yeah, it was supposed to be like a Gilmore Girls, where it's just kind of like a one and done.
Here we are. This is what's happening with us. And all right, but I think it was really popular, and I think a lot of people really did like a lot of the new characters and the relationships that were being introduced. So I think that's it. And you and I really, really loved the second season even more.
Second season was, I think, I don't know the consensus. Surprisingly, I'm not on r Sex in the City or r and Just Like That on Reddit. I'm not on those subreddits, believe it or not.
You will be.
I'm sure I will be, but I don't know it seems as if the show became more popular after season 2 because everyone seemed to like season 2.
Oh yeah.
Better than season 1, which happens a lot, even with revivals. That first season is always like you're trying to figure out what you're doing, you're trying to figure out the dynamics, and I mean, it had been 11 years, so I mean, like, that's a long time, and even if you're still friends with people, it's like, okay, well, y'all can't be meeting for brunch every single day, y'all can't be doing the things that you were doing in Sex and the City because y'all are... Not because you're in your 50s, but because y'all have kids, y'all are married, y'all have, these responsibilities. And I think season 1, they were really trying to find their footing. And then season 2, once everything was kind of established, it was like, okay, these new women exist in their world now. It doesn't feel forced anymore. It feels like they have formed a natural kind of friend group. And unfortunately, Sarah Ramirez and... the woman who plays Dr. Nia, the law professor, they are not returning for season 3.
I think their characters, I think there is also speculation, but truly, I think their characters sort of, their storylines ended.
Definitely Sarah Ramirez. Yeah, definitely Shay's. That was like, I feel like they kind of messed that character up. That's just my personal opinion, but if you haven't seen season 1 or 2, I won't reveal anything too much. Since it is a relatively newer show, I feel okay giving spoilers out for shows that are like 20 years old.
Yeah.
But this is still, this came out this decade. I mean, it's
been out there. I mean, I don't think, but I think you're right. Like what they did with her character was, I think they tried to make it too much too fast. Yeah. And I think they sort of hit a wall with it and it just sort of stalled.
Yeah.
So,
and then the case with the law school professor with Nia, I feel like they never knew what to do with her.
Yes.
And
other than her just being a professor.
Other than her being a professor and kind of doing being in the same profession as Miranda. But like other than that, I don't think they ever really figured her out. I think with Nicole Ari Parker and with Sarita Choudhury, it was like Seema's basically Samantha, and kind of Nicole Ari Parker kind of, I just love her character. I love her and her husband's character. They kind of stole season 2.
Oh my God.
For me, at least, they stole season 2. They're the
I freaking love them. Oh my gosh.
Their storylines were the ones that I was always like the most invested in, other than Charlotte's, because I love Charlotte and Harry. They're adorable, and they have their cute little bulldog. But yeah, so what did you think? So kind of going back, we kind of in one episode earlier last week, I talked about we were watching Savannah Just Like That. We're doing it for this episode. We started with the first episode, and then we kind of kept watching episodes. But what did you think of the pilot watching it originally? Do you remember?
Yes, because this was the episode where we now see, and you'll talk about it some more, Carrie has sort of evolved her career from being like a columnist for, the Star or the New York Star. Don't want to get any newspapers out after us. To being a podcaster. So she's kind of taken her voice that was on paper into now the podcast world, which is where we are today and what we're doing today.
What we're doing right now.
So that was kind of, to me, an interesting evolution of her career. She was still working as a writer. She, over the course of the 2 movies, she had written several books, and I think she was probably still working on books. She was married to Big at this point still. Like, they had obviously, been okay after the whole second movie, Aiden, smooch in Abu Dhabi. Charlotte was, now the mother of 2 teens that were in high school.
Both very different.
Both very polar opposite, and getting ready for the recital that Lily was doing. And Miranda was, I think, again, another crossroads in her career. She wasn't sure. And we were also very early in the episode made aware that Carrie and Samantha had a falling out over Samantha not working as her publicist, which was the story they went with to kind of say why Samantha was not
she was
part
living
of
in London.
In London, yes. So again, very plausible.
Yeah.
Why you have a falling out with a friend, friend, that's sometimes why you don't work for your friends or with your friends.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good introduction into like their worlds today.
Yeah.
10 years from the last movie that they were, a little older, established in their marriages, evolving in their careers. Charlotte was probably living her Upper East Side, wife of a partner of a law firm. Miranda, again, was always evolving her legal career. And Carrie was still, I don't know if she really liked the podcasting. I think she was doing it because she had to. She didn't have to because Big was supposedly rich, but she was trying to keep her own career, and this was the evolution of it. So I liked it in the sense that it gave us a good, paint the picture of what was happening with these 3 characters that we've known and loved.
And I did like the soft launch of we haven't met Seema yet. We haven't met I don't think we've met Lisa Todd's husband. Lisa Todd Wex, LTW. I don't think we've met her husband yet.
Yeah.
But we kind of got a soft launch, and I like that it wasn't
everything
kind of forced into it. It was like they met Lisa Todd Wexley at like the beginning of the episode. It was like in passing. They had run into each other at the restaurant. And Charlotte refers to her as LTW, and the girls are kind of making fun of her for that. It's making her sound like she's this really important person. And then you kind of meet Shay in like one scene with Bobby Long, who I love. He is so funny, and I love that he's like a recurring character on this, and he's funny in everything he does. So I was a fan, but I just kind of liked how, and then Dr. Naya was kind of in a small little part of the episode. I just liked how it wasn't, they weren't trying to like focus on like their personal lives yet, the new characters like personal lives yet. They were kind of just showing like, hey, these are these new people that are going to be on the show. And I was really interested in knowing that these characters are going to be more prominent, I was like, oh, I want to know those characters a little bit more. It kind of grabbed my interest. I was like, oh, someone new, someone different, someone with a different energy. And season 1, I loved Sarah Ramirez. I loved Shay in season 1. She's really funny, and constantly forget about her being on Grey's Anatomy, and like she looks so different now.
Oh my gosh, totally.
And so it's funny because I had written down the question, like, how does this compare to the pilot of Sex and the City? But like, it's really hard to compare them because now that, I mean, we watched, so for Sex and the City, it was our very first episode that we ever did on the show. That was our very first pilot. And we had watched the pilot before. Obviously you had, I had too. And then we did the series finale this past December for series finale month. So I feel like with the Sex and the City, I feel like that's been our most, not most prominent show, but like a show that is kind of, we keep kind of bringing back. And it's been just really interesting now that we're doing it just like that. We always planned on doing it just like that. Once again, just like with Handmaid's Tale, we were not expecting for the release date to come out while we had these shows planned out months ago. It's just very convenient that our 2 last episodes of this month, the new season has already started and one is about to start. Oh, yeah. So like, it's just, kind of interesting.
And these were my picks. I did not know. They had not announced it.
No, this is last year when you picked these. So has your perception of these characters changed? Like since watching Sex and the City and now watching And Just Like That over the course of all these years?
Yes. I think particularly Miranda, I think, has been the most obvious one that has struggled with not just her sexuality, but also her marriage to Steve. Also, the raising of Brady seems very suspect. Again, you'll talk a little bit about it in the pilot summary, but like Brady is openly having sex in the apartment while she and Steve are sleeping in the room next door. I can't see the Miranda from 15, 20 years ago having the thought that her child would be having sex in the bedroom, banging the headboard. Like, that does not seem like in character for Miranda.
Yeah.
But maybe she's evolved. Charlotte seems exactly who I think she thought she wanted to be. And over the course of season 1 and 2, I think she realizes that she misses the old sort of, not single and being able to date, but being the career woman Charlotte, that she is just essentially like a wife and a mother. I still sort of see that struggle there. And again, it's like later in the season of the first season that Susan Sharon is just like, did we all forget about who he was? Like, and so I do feel like my perception of them have changed. Carrie pretty much to me is sort of the same. I feel like she's this person who is trying to be something. I don't know. I always feel like I know Carrie, but then I don't.
Yeah.
Charlotte, I think I love her even more than I did before. And I sort of feel, I don't know the right word. I feel like kind of duped by Miranda and everything she used to be, because she used to be the pragmatic one, the one who could make decisions. She was like the career boss.
Yeah.
She knew what she wanted. She knew how to say no. She knew how to say yes. She was strong. She was determined. And over like the course of the movies and of this series, I feel like none of that is really there. Yeah. I feel like I don't know who this Miranda is. And again, we all change in our lives. And so maybe that was the intent, is to show that maybe outwardly sometimes we are trying to be something that we're not. So yeah. Well, what do you think? How have your perceptions of Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte have changed? You talked a little bit about Miranda, but what about Carrie and Charlotte?
Well, with Carrie, I will continue to say, and I will forever say, Carrie is like the poster child for main character syndrome, like kind of main character, kind of this whole idea that you have these TV shows that where the central character is often the most boring or the most disliked, or you have Riverdale where like everyone remembers Jughead, Betty, and Veronica, but like everyone hated Archie. Like, and it was, with, other shows, it's always kind of like the central character, because the central character usually has to be the straight man, as the term is called, meaning that like they kind of aren't necessarily saying the funny lines, or not necessarily having the more interesting storylines. They don't necessarily get the most character development because they kind of have to be the constant. And I feel like there is a way to evolve the central character. They can continue being the constant, but they could still evolve.
Yes.
And what I feel like with Carrie is that even through the course of what's happening, we've watched both seasons of And Just Like That. We know what's going on. And my biggest gripe with the Sex and the City series finale, when we recorded that in December, was that Carrie had shown no growth. She had shown no evolution. She had gone through all of this. And at the end, and even like her final lines from Sex and the City, where it was like, it's all about friendship. It's like, no, it's not. This has all been about you finding someone, which is fine. But I mean, like, I feel like I was given like this is a really weird metaphor, but like when you come home and the kid has chocolate over his face and you're like, did you get into the chocolate? And they say no. It was just kind of like, I felt like they were trying to tell me that the whole message of this show was friendship, where the whole storyline with Carrie, it was about her and her love life, which I know that was part of the show, but like the whole point of the show was supposed to be these four friends.
Yes.
And with the three women, it was about their personal lives, but also their friendships. But with Carrie, it was just all about her and her relationship, ultimately her relationship with Big. And I just feel like they have continued to not evolve that character. It was the same in the pilot event, Just Like That. It was the same Carrie from the pilot of Sex and the City, from the series finale of Sex and the City, and I'm sure in the two movies, I haven't seen them. I'm not going to declare that, but yeah, I just feel like can they do something with Carrie? Like, can they just do something other than bring back an ex of hers from the previous show and make that all about her storyline?
Exactly, and that's what I said about the in our series finale.
Yeah.
I was like, it wasn't necessarily that I wanted her with Aiden.
Yeah.
I also didn't think she belonged with Big or Aiden.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't the answer. It was just like, why couldn't she just sort of be happy, like, with herself at that
Right.
point? Because like I said, on the series finale of Sex and the City, on the second to last episode, she made like the grand statement, like, we're over.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like, I hate you. And then like a week later, she's in Paris going, maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Maybe
I can't stop thinking about Big.
I can't stop thinking about Big.
Yeah.
But I'm here in Paris, the city I always wanted to go to with this guy, although he's acting like a douche too.
Right.
Like, she couldn't stop herself and go, maybe all of this is wrong. Like,
Right.
It's like, I kept thinking like, they were writing it to try to make the audience happy and not necessarily Carrie happy.
Yeah.
And I hated that for her, because I feel like we're right back there again.
Yeah.
And that I can say about the second movie,
Mm-hmm.
and why Kim Cattrall didn't want to come back, because I also kind of feel like they never really per se evolved Samantha outside of just being like sex positive.
Yeah.
Like, that was always what it was. And obviously, go Samantha.
Yeah.
And, I'm all about sexual positivity, and, if you don't ever want to get married and you just want hookups and whatever, that's great. But they ended the second movie with her like hooking up with this guy that she met in Abu Dhabi, having sex on the top of a Jeep on a beach.
Yeah.
And I was just like, really? Like,
Yeah.
and again, I feel like, Kim Cattrall was like, I'm kind of over it.
Yeah.
In addition to her beef that she had with the actresses themselves. But I appreciated that about her. Like, I appreciated that she said, like, I feel like I'm done. I feel like Samantha's done. She's going to do something totally different. Peace out. And I like that because, like you said, I feel like we're right back in it again with Carrie, with Big, and then after what happens in the first episode, it's all back about, I need to start dating.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to Aiden.
And then we see once again John Corbett in the preview for season 3, and I'm just like, can they just like...
Right. After he declares he's going back to Virginia to like watch his kids grow up. Yeah, you're like, what is happening? So
Yeah, it's frustrating, but like not frustrating enough to stop watching the show.
Oh, I'm going to watch. I need to see what happens. But what about Charlotte?
So my perception of Charlotte, so when I started watching And Just Like That with you, I had really only watched Sex and the City like in passing, and I didn't know necessarily the evolution of these characters. I knew who the characters were, obviously. I'd watched enough of Sex and the City to know who everyone knew these characters at one point. Sex and the City was like one of the most popular shows during its run. So, I mean, Sarah Jessica Parker was winning awards like every year for it. So, I mean, like people knew about it. And I immediately loved Charlotte on And Just Like That. I immediately loved her relationship with Harry. I immediately kind of just loved her whole evolution because she did get everything that she wanted, but she realized, I guess we're going to give spoilers out because we've already done it. She kind of realizes that like she does miss working. She does miss her passion. At one point was art, and it was, she knew so much. She was so passionate about it. She knew so much about it. She loved her job, and I think she kind of forgot about that at some point. And then she was like reminded of it. I don't know if that's more of a season 2 thing. But
that's definitely season 2.
Yeah, but you kind of see like she has become everything that she is. You get, and it's you get everything that you want, but then you realize you're like, but what about me? What about like, I have these kids now that they're getting older. They're not dependent on me anymore. I have a husband who has his own life. Now it's like, what am I supposed to do? And it's like, I think that's what a lot of parents deal with in their life, where it's like, oh, I got everything I wanted. And then once their kids turn like 17, 18 years old, it's like, oh yeah, right. They're going to like go and live their own lives. Now what am I going to do? And it's like, and I think that's why I might cut this out. I think that's why a lot of kids still live with their parents nowadays when they're past 18, 19, 20 years old. It's because these parents have dedicated their whole lives to their kids, and with them being gone, it's like, what am I supposed to do with my life? And, I'm glad that they gave her something, and that she's kind of like, no, this is what I want to do. I miss being independent. I miss having a career. I miss having my job. And she doesn't apologize for it. And she actually yells at her family on one scene. It's like one of my favorite scenes from the show, where she's wasted and she's yelling at her whole family about how she used to have a life and she used to have a job, and
she was somebody before all of them.
Yeah, and and it's true. Like we parents, we had completely different lives before we had kids, and we were completely different people. And I think it's hard for the kids to see that, and it's hard for them to realize that. With Miranda, I've already talked about that. I've already and you kind of said everything that I wanted. It was just like, you had this character that, beginning of Sex and the City, she was very, I hate saying cold, but like, because that's not the word, but she was just very like sure. She was very confident in the fact that she doesn't need a man. She doesn't need a husband. In her mind, she wasn't maternal. Like, she was not capable of like unconditional love. In her mind, she was very cynical about love. She was very cynical about relationships. She was definitely cynical about parenting. What do you do with a character like that? You get them pregnant. Of course, you got to get them pregnant, because they have to understand, for that character, not in life, but on a TV show, when you have a character like that, it's almost like, even if you don't know what happens season 1, you're like, oh yeah, that's the one that's going to get pregnant, because because that's the one that has to realize it. And the series finale, Miranda's storyline was my favorite was my favorite one. It was my favorite part of the series finale. I could just watch those clips, and like, you see that Miranda isn't just capable of unconditional love with her son. She's capable of love beyond anything she ever knew, of taking care of Steve, taking care of Steve's, not just, I mean, like, full-time taking care of Steve's mother. And when the housekeeper tells Miranda, like, you know, that's what love is, that's what you're doing, and that's what, like, you're capable, you're so much more than what you think you are. And it was such a beautiful ending for that character.
It's my favorite.
I'm trying, like, just thinking about it, we're both like getting a little, because it was like such a sweet scene, such a sweet storyline, and it wrapped up that character so perfectly. And it was like, from the series finale from the pilot to the series finale, that character hands down had evolved the most.
Oh yeah.
Out of all the 4 characters. And just like that, like, I get it. You kind of need that storyline of like a
conflict,
kind of like a little
turmoil.
A little bit of a midlife crisis, a little bit of a, what am I doing with my life? Is this really who I am? And kind of having a little bit of an identity crisis. I just don't like the way they went about it.
Yes.
I don't like the way that they kind of like made her kind of leave behind all of her obligations and essentially abandon her family. Like, that kind of makes her a really shitty person. And like, if you're not happy in your marriage, I get that, but like, the way she went about it,
she cheated on Steve again. I mean, not again. He cheated on her in the movies.
Yeah.
And then in this, she cheats on Steve while she's supposed to be taking care of Carrie and all kinds of crazy stuff. Like,
and in season 2, I feel like the writers realized, they were like, I don't know if they thought they made a mistake, but I just feel like they were like, I think we kind of shit the bed on this one, because it really, she comes back to New York and she kind of falls back into being Miranda again, but it's like, what was the point of all of that? It was just, It just very much felt like, what was the point of all of that? And even with the newer characters being more prominent in season 2, I was way more invested with them in their lives than I was with Miranda. Miranda was actually like my least favorite character from season 1 and 2 of And Just Like That, which is strange because she was my favorite in Sex and the City. Oh, that's unfair. I loved all of them, but like, Miranda was the one that like I thought had changed the most, and I've been very disappointed in what they've done, at least with Carrie. Like, she's not going to evolve. I think we've accepted that by now. She's still going to be Carrie. She's still going to be living in her brownstone, smoking her cigarettes, like, you know, kind of repeating the same thing over and over again. Some people are just like that, but with Miranda, I was like, man, they really just wasted that character, and it's very disappointing. I really hope that there is some type of redemption with Miranda in season 3. I'll be very interested to see what they do with that character now that Sarah Ramirez's character is not going to be on the show. Now she kind of has to, I feel like now she kind of has to more or less like kind of face the music on what she's done, and I kind of hope that they elaborate on that. Who knows, they may just have a time jump. Who knows, they may just not even acknowledge what happened in the first 2 seasons.
Right.
Like, you know, so you never know. But let me get to the last part of our conversation before we get into the pilot summary. So I feel like you have a very exceptional, I would say compared to a lot of other people, you've had the ability to maintain all of these friendships even since elementary school. Like, it's just so funny. You're like, yeah, my friend group from elementary school, like, you still have that, you know, like, you still have.
Then there's junior high,
there's my friend
school.
group from high school. There are my friend groups from, you have all these different friend groups from like college and living in Seattle. And how, may I ask, do you maintain those friendships? Because we are very different in that sense.
Yes. Well, first off, obviously, social media has exponentially changed that ability. Mm-hmm. But even before Facebook, I still kept in touch with quite a few of my friends, like old school telephone, when texting started as a thing, texting people. In college, we wrote letters and stuff. But I don't think you have to like see your friends 24/7 to maintain friendships. So like, and again, my job is also very unique in the sense that I travel a lot. So I just went to Oxford, Mississippi several weeks ago to do a training at Ole Miss, and I messaged my high school friend Laura. She met me for breakfast, and I hadn't seen Laura for like almost 2 years, but we just met up for breakfast and chatted for about an hour and a half, and then she went to Tupelo and I went to teach. And you know, I mean, and again, I might not see Laura again until our high school reunion in a couple of years, but I feel like I've been able to maintain the relationships with just simple checking in and what's going on. But I think what you maybe don't see are some of the friendships that have gone by the wayside as well. I think you are amazed that, like this weekend, in fact, when we were in Biloxi, I messaged my friend Wendy and I was like, hey girl, what's up? I'm in town. You know, what's a good place to go and eat? And she suggested something, and I didn't see her. But she just messaged her out of the blue, and then she messaged about possibly having a pool party one day, and I was like, come on, you know? So it's just stuff like that. But what I think is important, and kind of in relation to talking about Samantha, is that it's also okay for friendships to sort of just run their course, and that we have to think of it as not necessarily a bad thing, that sometimes people come in and out of your life, and there's sometimes that they just end on their own, either due to maybe some sort of disagreement or just you just have nothing in common anymore, because I think sometimes our lives change, and there might be people that would say that I've changed since I've been married. I hope I've changed. I hope it's a positive thing. But, you know, I've had friends that I thought I would stay friends with forever, and I don't necessarily talk to them anymore. And not necessarily because something bad happened. It's just, you know, that's what's happened over time. But I think it takes work. I feel like there has to be some sort of mutual effort to maintain the friendships, in the sense of how I've kept them for so long. I mean, a lot of them have been like, let's meet up for the weekend. Let's meet up at a restaurant for lunch. If you're in town, let's see who else is in town. And it's little things like that. So I also think, coming from New Orleans, being in a sorority, being in something like the junior league, just organizations that I've been in have also fostered those friendships and fostered the maintaining of those friendships. And that's helped. So I think that's really the biggest thing, because New Orleans, we all back in the day, and I know things are different. I mean, I went to school with people from kindergarten to high school, and that was public school, not like a school like, let's say, like Parkview, where you go to school kindergarten through senior year at the same school. So I think New Orleans is unique that way, that you go to school a lot with the same people, even through changing schools. But what about you? So I know you're different in the sense that you have probably a very few close friends that you've maintained.
So I had I think it's just kind of the way even when I was a kid, just the way that like my life kind of ended up mapping out. Sorry, my voice is going out. That I think it was difficult for me to maintain friendships, just because we did have the lack of technology at the time. I grew up in a very small rural area outside of Baton Rouge, called Greenville Springs, and that's where I originally lived until I was about 9. And then my parents got divorced. I switched schools, and then we moved. To Azalea. That was when we moved to Azalea Lake. So I went to a neighborhood that was full of kids. They were all my friends, and then I went somewhere else. And from that era, I maintained 2 friends from my old neighborhood in Central. It was Michael and it was Dwight, and those were the 2 friendships that I maintained. Dwight kind of just over time, I think like pretty much after like 5th or 6th grade, I think we kind of just stopped because we didn't have, I mean, I didn't have AOL. We didn't even have AOL then. Like it was just, it was, and I don't know if it's like boys or if it's I don't know. I just was never like a phone talker. And that's not a boy thing. That's just like a person thing. I know plenty of girls who didn't like talking on the phone, but like, yeah. I was definitely someone that I wasn't like, oh, let me call Dwight and see what he's doing. It wasn't one, and I was also a kid. I wasn't thinking that way. I did maintain a friendship with Michael until we were about 21, before I moved to Florida. That was when we kind of parted ways. His life went in, our lives just went in completely different directions, and that was really no one's fault. It was just he had found faith. He had gotten really into the church. He had gotten really into that, and I was 21. I was partying. I was being 21,
and that can do it. Yeah.
And I think there was just like one time where we hung out, and it was just like, we are so different now.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just, we are not, the only thing we had in common, and it's just like Good Boys. I know we love that movie, but it was, the friends you have when you're little, it's because you live next door to each other. It's because your parents are friends.
Yes.
And that was our case. We grew up next door to each other. We were born a week apart. Our sisters were born 2 months apart. So like, they were best friends. We were best friends. It was perfect. Like, our parents were friends. Our families did stuff together all the time. And once we got a little older, it was like, oh, we are just completely different people. The friends I made from Parkview, I still talk to sometimes. It's always through social media. It's always through Facebook. That's very few as well. My friends from high school, we were friends because we dressed the same. We listened to the same music. We were kind of labeled like the quote unquote freaks. We were like the metal, punk, emo, like that. That was that era. And once I reached a certain point in my life, I realized it was another circumstance where it was like, oh, we were only friends because of this. Now that I'm not that anymore, it's like, oh, we're completely different. We're completely different people. There's some friendships that I still have, some I still don't, but I honestly, like, my close friends that I still have now, I met when I was an adult. Like, I met when I was in my 20s, and I that's when I met Nick. That's when I met Andy. That's when I met Josh. That's when I met Matt. That's when I met all of these people that I consider to be my really good friends. I was an adult. Like, we're friends because of a genuine connection, because of a genuine friendship connection. It's not so much because we grew up together or because we like the same things. It was just, oh, we're just friends because, like, we're compatible as friends. And that's kind of where I'm at now in life. I sometimes envy you. I sometimes really don't, because there is a lot to maintain when you have all these different friendship groups, not in a bad way, but just like...
It can sometimes be work, I'm not going to lie.
And there are times where, I'm not necessarily like giving you a hard time about this, but like it is a lot of, and I noticed this with not just you, I noticed this with all friend groups that have known each other since forever, that their friendship is basically just based on, hey, remember when this happened? Hey, remember when this happened? Hey, you remember when this happened? Like, it's more of like talking about the past, and it's not so much like, and this isn't directed towards you, this is just kind of old friend groups in general, because that's what happened with me when I would hang out with someone from high school. It would be, hey, you remember this? I'm like, yeah, I remember. And, I'm just kind of
Exactly.
like, and I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just kind of like, can we talk about what's going on in our lives now? Can we talk about whatever's current on TV or whatever current movies are out? Can we just talk about that? Do we just have to sit here and talk about that one time in high school where I did that thing, like, or where you did that thing, or we did that thing? It's just like,
or that party, or that time we got so wasted.
And, and there's a part of me that, like, kind of, it's not, and I'm good. No matter how I say it, it's going to sound negative, but I don't mean it in a negative way. I kind of feel sorry for them because it's like, there's this element of living in the past, and there's this element of kind of being delusional feels way too strong of a word, but like it feels like you're trying to make this friendship something that it isn't. And it's more based on, if we didn't have these memories to talk about, would we even be friends? Would we even be able to have something to talk about? Because like you have friends from college that like the other day when we were at the AO Pie crawfish boil, you and your sisters, y'all were talking about what was going on in your lives now. Y'all were talking about TV shows that y'all watch. Y'all were having friendship conversations, whereas I've seen other friend groups where all they do is talk about back in the day, or they talk about memories and stuff. And if that's what you like to do, that's what you like to do. I'm not gonna diss you for that, even though it sounds like I am, but I'm always someone that has been very much, life has kind of forced me to, my life and the events in my life have kind of forced me to not live in the past and to be present and think about the future. Like that is just kind of what my life has turned me into. I know it's a weird way to put it.
No,
but like,
I actually totally agree with you, because I think sometimes my visits with friends can be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with reminiscing. There's nothing wrong with, talking about the past. But like when it's like all you talk about, it's like outside of like family, because I can't stand it every single time we go to my dad's house. I can't stand it every single time someone starts bringing up something from our childhood. And then it's like, hey, Jeff, remember when we got arrested? I'm like, I do not want to talk about that in front of my nieces and nephews. So I'm going to say, I don't want to talk about that. It's just like, and there was that one time at my dad's house where I got genuinely pissed off because they talked about something from my past without my permission when I wasn't in the room. And I got very upset. I don't think I made it vocal that I was upset, but I was very upset about it. I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm just like, that's not what defines me. Like I'm so different than what I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So it's like talking about the past, I feel like just hinders you from evolving as a human. Yes. And I feel like being present, thinking about what's going on today and kind of anticipating what's going to happen a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, I think that for me personally, is just a much healthier way to live, especially now that we live in such a nostalgia obsessed society where it feels like time is just suspended and everyone's just like, remember back in the 90s? I'm like, yes, I remember back in the 90s. What? And, I'm like, I feel like such a dickhead, but it's just like, sorry, I'm kind of ranting, but it's just kind of like I said, this is our therapy. I just get tired of being like, oh yeah, well, I'm hanging out with my best friend. What do y'all do? We just talk about back in the day. And I'm just like, cool. I'm just like, that doesn't sound like a friendship. That sounds like you're reading your diary at home. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just ranting. But like, I feel like the friends that I have now are genuinely my friends. I know I don't have this elaborate friend group that I used to have. I don't have this channel of friends that I used to have, but I feel like it's because we are just not the same anymore. And we don't have that whatever bond we had when we were young. We just don't have that anymore. And I feel like that's okay. And I feel like the friends that I have now are genuinely my friends. And if I needed them, they would be there for me. If they needed me, I'd be there for them. I can't necessarily say that for my friends back in the day. I can't necessarily say that for the friends that I had growing up, if they would be there for me now if we were still friends. So I try not to be too cynical about it, but it is hard for me not to be a little cynical because my constant reminder is that everyone just lives not everyone, but most people just live in the past and they just can't seem to be present.
Yeah,
and that's it.
I agree. I think there are a lot of
rant finished.
I think there are a lot of people like that, and I think I personally I can get into that reminiscing about, oh my God, remember when this thing happened or when so and so did this, and I do really try when I am with old like friends from elementary or junior high or high school or college. You do have to work on, there is a time to have those discussions, but also I definitely am with you that gets old. And if that's all you really have, then like okay, we
Right.
talked about that. Like,
Now what?
now what?
Yeah.
Yep. So I feel you.
Yeah, nothing, like I said, nothing wrong with reminiscing, but when that's all you do, that just doesn't feel like a friendship to me.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to get into the plot summary. It's not very long because this was a really great episode in the sense of a pilot where we're catching up with everyone.
Yeah.
And then we get a big ending, literally a big ending. But also, since it is the last episode of the month, we are going to be talking about what you can expect in May, which is going to be this Friday.
Yep.
It's a much more lighthearted month than others, I will say.
Yeah.
But it's
a fun one.
It's a fun one. So let me go ahead and get into this plot summary, and then we'll talk about what you can expect in May. And just like that, pilot summary. At a long-awaited brunch, Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte discuss all the new changes in their lives, including a conspicuous absence from their circle. Carrie, Charlotte, and Miranda are as close as ever, but Samantha, after falling out with Carrie, has moved to London and cut off contact with everyone. So right out of the gate, and I'm really glad they did that. I'm really glad just right out of the gate, they're like, this is why Samantha isn't here. Now let's move on. Like, we can move on from it, because like you said, friends come and go, and there's nothing wrong with that. During brunch, Charlotte runs into Lisa Todd Wexley, or LTW, as Charlotte calls her. She is a well-known documentarian, and her kids go to the same school as Charlotte's. Stanford and Anthony remain close friends to the girls. Carrie, happily married to John, or Big. We found out in the series finale that his name is John.
John James Preston.
Continues writing books and regularly participates in a sex-oriented podcast hosted by Shay Diaz, a non-binary comedian, and Jackie, played by Bobby Long, who I already said, he's so funny. Although Carrie seems to be enjoying herself on the podcast, she feels a little behind on the times, particularly current single life since she's been married to Big for a decade. And you also got to think, before she married Big, I mean, dating apps hadn't fully taken off yet. We're talking about 2010. I mean, dating apps hadn't really gone off yet. Like, the dating world hadn't fully changed yet. So I can definitely see her not being able to keep up in a conversation because she has been living this married life during one of the biggest leaps in technology.
And even in the movie, she was barely using email.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think she's traditionally never been like a tech savvy
Other than
person,
just using Word.
other than using Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
Shay gives Carrie some advice and asks her to be more involved in the conversation. Carrie admits that she wasn't expecting the podcast to be so raunchy, and Shay reminds Carrie that she is the original sex talk girl. Yeah, it was kind of funny to hear Carrie be like, I didn't realize y'all were going to be so blunt. And Shay was just like, used to write a sex column in the 90s, like
right.
when it was way more taboo back then. And I think Shay's like kind of taken aback that like the more or less like the sex woman, the woman who writes about dating and sex is like saying like, I wasn't expecting this to be so sexual. It was kind of interesting to hear that. And I kind of liked that they kind of went that way.
And I've always said it's kind of funny. It's different to write about something versus being on like a podcast or a TV show where it's your real actual voice or face doing the talking. It's easy to hide behind a written column than it is to be the real voice of what you're actually saying.
Miranda has left corporate law and returned to school to study human rights law. She's also adjusting to life with a teenage boy. Brady is now 17 and is sexually active, something Miranda, like you said, was not prepared for. Miranda and Steve are trying to be progressive, and if Brady is wearing protection and the sex is consensual, then they support it. Miranda has begun to regret her decision to being progressive because, they're just having loud sex now. Like you said, headboard banging on the wall. I would have never in my life. Stepping
on the protection the next morning. I'll let your mind wander about that.
And then Miranda gets off on the wrong foot at her first class where she offends the professor, Dr. Nia Wallace, in front of the entire class. Charlotte and Harry are happily married with their two children, Lily and Rose. She goes by Rose at this point.
Yes.
And their adorable bulldog, Richard Burton. I always have to mention the Tootie. Lily has become a talented pianist and very much takes after Charlotte, who is very feminine and likes to dress up for special occasions. Rose is a bit more like her father and takes on a more masculine identity. Lily is thrilled to see the dress Charlotte got for her for a piano recital, but Rose is less thrilled to see hers. Rose finally agrees to wear the dress, but puts on a tuxedo t-shirt over it and dons a beanie, which I thought was kind of cute. Which reminded me of Louise from Bob's Burgers.
I know.
Carrie and Big seem to have finally become a drama-free couple. Now they've been together for over 10 years. They've fallen into a routine, but not in a bad way, since this is so different than what their lives used to be. Big cooks dinner, Carrie picks the music, and they spend as much time together as possible. They are planning a long weekend in the Hamptons. Big wanted to leave early on Wednesday night, but due to Lily's recital, he agrees to wait another night, but opts out to attend the recital. Carrie goes off to the recital while Big stays home to exercise on his Peloton. Remember when everyone was talking about Peloton?
Oh my God. During the pandemic, it was such the thing.
I mean, for some people, it was their only communication. It was really weird thinking about it that way, that like it was
you have
a sense of not communication, but a sense of like, yeah, you get to interact. I just remember everyone talking about Peloton. I'm like, what is this? I remember looking it up and being like, that's it? At the recital in front of the school, we see Steve and Miranda. Steve is still Steve, except he's losing his hearing, which I had some funny jokes in that episode. Anthony shows up. Anthony shows up alone without Stanford, who shows up shortly after and is irate with Anthony for leaving him at home because he was taking too long to get ready. That scene was hilarious. They're so funny.
Yeah.
During the recital, back at Carrie and Big's apartment, Big is on his Peloton where he begins to have a heart attack. Carrie comes home to find Big lying on their bathroom floor, barely hanging on. Carrie holds Big as he slowly loses consciousness. Carrie narrates, and just like that, Big died. Was not expecting that end of episode. Was not expecting that ending when we first watched it. I was wondering what they were going to do with those characters. When we started the show, I wasn't as invested as I am now. So rewatching the pilot, I'm a lot more like, I bet fans were kind of annoyed with this. I wonder if fans were kind of annoyed with this, like that they had done this big setup for them to be together in the very first episode. They're like, wait, Carrie can't be married. She has to be single. Let's kill off Big. Ended up working out because then there was this whole scandal with Chris Noth in real life. So it ended up being a good thing. But I found it very interesting that they went there, and they went there in the first episode.
Oh, bam. It was.
Yeah. And it wasn't a cliffhanger. At the very end of the episode, Big died, and that was it. Yeah, I have to say that, like, this was I was not expecting that ending. I know I just said that, but, like, was not expecting the ending, especially everything leading up till the end. But you're kind of, now rewatching the pilot, I'm like, okay, it was kind of like something had to happen, because I'm just like, everyone's kind of going through all of these different things. Carrie and Big seem fine. So I'm like, okay, now something has to happen. Now I see it now. Like, it's easier to see it now. It's like, oh.
Hindsight,
right. So yeah, and just like that, I feel like we talked a lot about that. So,
and I thought it was great. A great start back. A great revival, not reboot. They don't want to call it a reboot, but I think it brought us forward to today, whenever, 2021, when it, relaunched, and we got to know these characters again and got renewed, and we're going to wait to see in about a month what's happening now. So it was slow for me to start season 1.
Yeah.
But then season 2, we both were like, oh my God, we love it.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, I'm invested again. So I really can't wait to see what happens in season 3.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. All right. So
May,
it's gonna be May.
Yeah, we're doing NSYNC themed. I'm just kidding.
We missed it. We missed our opportunity.
Yeah, all the NSYNC based TV shows.
Everything Justin Lake has ever been in. No.
Yeah. So Anna usually comes up with the themes. She's really good at it. Eve Parties, our podcast. You love a good theme. But this one was one that I would have never expected you to suggest. It has really nothing to do with you on a personal level. It's just, I was just very
personally offended.
I was just very surprised that, so Anna was like, what if we do, and when I say this term, I don't mean it in a pornographic way. I mean, it is the subgenre is called adult animation, and it is in reference to shows like The Simpsons, Family Guy,
Bob's
Burgers, stuff like that. Also, like, you can kind of say, you can also lean into more like anime stuff, more like mature anime stuff. You have all these different animated shows that are on Netflix now, like adult animation.
So
really
many.
Especially the last, like, I would say 15, 20 years, adult animation has come such a long way, and it's such a big part of mainstream television now that I'm really excited. We have a really great list of shows.
You picked some good ones.
Yes, I made it very clear we're not just going to be doing we're not just going to be doing all of the major ones, because there are and also there are a lot of animated shows that were split into like 15-minute episodes. There were ones that were on Adult Swim that were only like 12 or 15-minute long episodes. So I'm like, okay, well, we can't do an episode of that. So it's just kind of like I had to pick the right shows. I wanted to pick different genres. I wanted to pick shows that we had never seen. I wanted to pick some that we had never seen before. Both of us had never seen before. And so far, it's been pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a couple of them already, like, I was interested in, and that I had never seen. And when we were watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, how did you find this? But you've been doing some digging and looking at different streaming sites and looking online for different things. Because I, of course, initially, just out of my head, I was like, oh, Bob's Burgers, The Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park.
Yeah.
But those are all like very
they really are kind of the same
genre,
basically
of
a
family
sitcom that is animated.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you wanted to do a little bit more than that. Also introduce, like you said, anime.
Yeah. Which I was really there's one particular one we already watched that I was really excited to show you. That I was really excited to show you, and I was really glad that you were like, "This is interesting." I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
I was just like,
so I was very excited. We've already started watching several of the episodes that we're going to be doing. So I think it's going to be a fun month.
Yeah.
And just something totally different. So
exactly.
I love picking our themes.
I love picking the shows.
Yep.
All right. You ready to wrap this up?
Ready. And like that.
And just like that.
We're almost done.
And a month is over. I never stop celebrating you. So it's every month is and a month for me.
You're so sweet.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right, I don't have too many. So I have the Statue of Liberty and the apple for New York. I have the microphone for the podcast, scales, books, any of the flowers. I don't know if they're specifically a lily, but there is a rose for Lily and Rose, a puppy for Richard Burton, music, the ear for Steve because he's losing his hearing. I think at Lily's recital, Miranda starts drinking, so a glass of wine.
Yeah.
The shower for Big, the broken heart, the skull to represent that Big dies, the UK flag for Samantha, the plate and the utensils for brunch, the movie camera for LTW, and I think that was about all that I had. So, all right, well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.